National Treasury and SARS have published the 2017 Draft Taxation Laws Amendment Bill and the draft for the Tax Administration Laws Amendment Bill for public comment. These amendments include revising the foreign employment income tax exemption for South Africans and extending the application of controlled foreign company rules to interposed foreign trusts and foreign foundations. Joining us on that is Senior Associate at Bowman's, Noxolo Ntobela. Thank you so much, Noxolo, for your time today. I think let's start with the controlled foreign company rules. Does that just apply to foundations and companies, or does it apply to individuals as well?
It applies to foreign trusts and foundations. Okay. So I'm not sure if I can just explain what a controlled foreign company is and why we have it in our legislation. As South African tax residents, we are taxed on our worldwide income. So what I could essentially do is then form a foreign company, then which will house all my foreign interests and
any income that you get from there.
Either just like royalties, just passive income.
Okay.
So in order to curb that, we have controlled foreign company legislation, which essentially means that any South African resident that holds 50% or more participation or voting rights in a foreign company, that income in that foreign company would be the net income would be imputed back into the South African shareholders' hands.
I see. So currently, what sort of tax are they paying, and why is it that Treasury feels that they need to tighten the net?
Yes. So right now, you would pay the South African shareholder would pay in tax from the controlled foreign company, from its controlled foreign company. So what we have seen in the industry and what National Treasury is trying to curb is where you interpose a foreign trust or a foundation in between now the South African shareholder and then the foreign trust or foundation, and then you'd have the CFC, the foreign company, which in sense makes the foreign company not part of our legislation. So the new proposed legislation brings in that foreign company into our tax net.
Now, some people who are criticizing the proposals are saying that there will be some unintended consequences, that it might actually lead to tax practitioners and even SARS itself having to go through each individual person to look at individual circumstances. What's your sense of the criticism that there are unintended consequences?
Yes, in terms of the budget speech, we expected that the National Treasury will be bringing in this legislation. What was really startling was an insertion of Section 20, what we call Section 2024 BC. So now this proposed legislation taxes all the distributions from the foreign trusts.
I see.
Yes. So whether or not the underlying distribution was as a consequence of the trust other in investments, that would be taxed in the South African beneficiary's hand, so as income tax.
Okay.
Yes.
Instead of the dividend withholding tax.
No. So the legislation is trying to bring into our tax net the controlled foreign company, or the company that is in between the foreign trust.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it doesn't. The new legislation doesn't take into account whether or not the underlying quasi CFC or quasi controlled foreign company would have been exempt in terms of our own tax exemptions, which is, for instance, the foreign exemption, foreign business exemption, or the high tax exemption.
Okay, so that's where the unintended consequences. Let's very quickly move to South Africans who are working abroad for a short period. We know that they are treated differently depending on the tax regime in the countries in which they work. What is being proposed there in terms of provisions?
Yes. So in terms of that piece of the piece of legislation, it's an exemption in South Africa, where if you work in a foreign jurisdiction and you're there for more than 183 days, subject to other conditions, of course, then you are tax exempt in South Africa in terms of our legislation. So National Treasury sees this as very generous to taxpayers, in a sense, because there's a potential where you won't be paying any foreign taxes and you're not paying any South African taxes. In addition to that, this only applies to employees that are in the private sector. So government employees are not included in this exemption.
Okay.
Yeah. So which becomes it becomes a problematic in the sense that you get individuals where or maybe to go back, why do we pay taxes? We pay taxes because for our general infrastructure, the upkeep and to maintain our infrastructure in South Africa, for the police,
services,
and the likes. So now if you're working abroad, the National Treasury assumes that you're getting a very high salary and you're not paying any taxes. But if you're working abroad, your foreign employer has already worked out that you won't potentially be paying any taxes in that country, or very little taxes, and hence has scaled down your salary, and you're not utilizing any of this of South Africans
of the services. It'll be an interesting debate, I think, for most
so
people.
Just repealing the legislation in its entirety is sort of unfair. Perhaps National Treasury should carve out the unintended consequences from that.
We'll watch that very closely. Thanks so much
for
your time today. Senior Associate at Bowman's Noxolo Ntobela. Now.